Good morning. I'm Keith Williams from Detroit. I'm one of the co-chairs of the regional reparations efforts with Claire McFarland. The Midwest consists of Detroit, St. Louis, Kansas, and Illinois. Folks, this is my third symposium, and Robin is getting bigger and better. Robin, I want to thank you for your vision, your perseverance, and your leadership. Each city will give you their report, and we have Janay from Kansas, Claire, Robin Prody, but Ms. Calloway is going to give her on St. Louis report. Okay. In 2021, in Detroit, we ran a reparations ballot proposal that won by 80%. I did a survey, and my survey, in order to put it on the ballot, we tested the language. 51% of African-American men voted for a survey. They wanted it. 54% of black women wanted it. 58% of white women wanted it. And 38% of white males wanted it. And we won by 80% of the vote. Now, mind you, Detroit is 85% black, and we have a white mayor, and the corporation has taken over Detroit. Okay? And they're still working against us now. In 2022, after we passed the ballot proposal, 4 members was appointed to executive committee and 9 members from the board who was appointed for each city council member. We have been meeting, which has been a task in itself, trying to bring people together for the common good. We were awarded $350,000 for operational money. We are in the process of hiring an executive director to manage our process and consultants to get us through our process. Robin has been a great help. She came to Detroit to get us on the track about starting our harms report, and we're on our way of getting that done. We have a contract agreement with the University of Michigan to do our harms report in the areas of housing, economic development, health disparity, and policing. We're now going back to the community to give an update on what has been done since the election of 2021. And lastly, we are going to be working with Linda to do an impact report. And finally, after the harms report and impact report is done, our goal is to have everything done by September and a final report submitted to the City Council by November. And my next steps are, we want to create a commission in the state of Michigan who is part of the skullduggery. And so now we got a governor is playing politics. She's trying to get Joe Biden elected. And so in Michigan, we've been mistreated a little bit. And I'm a guy that don't say no, and they know me. And eventually we're going to get a commission coming out of the state of Michigan, and I'm not going to give up. Okay? So I'm going to bring up Janay from Kansas, and she's going to give you her report.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Janay Reliford from Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, there is a difference. Kansas City, Kansas was a free state, and Kansas City, Missouri was one of the last to free the slaves. So Kansas City Reparations Coalition, we started our work in 2020, and somebody beautifully said yesterday, reparations is now, because we have had great strides since then and now have a 13-member commission seated. It's the Mayor's Commission on Reparations. So first I'm just gonna outline some of the work of the Kansas City Reparations Coalition, which our main role is education, which is greatly needed within Kansas City. Sister Terry Barnes, I really would like those of us from Kansas City that came to just stand so people know who you are. I won't be able to say everybody's name, but just please stand so everybody knows the team that came from Kansas City. So Terry Barnes, she's the chair of the mayor's commission on reparations, and we and some others from the commission, we sat in with some students from Penn Valley Community College to share about reparations, and not one of them knew, these are college students, not one of them knew what reparations was. So it was a real eye-opener at just how much work there is to be done with educating the community. So Kansas City Reparations Coalition, we received $2,500 from FirstRepair for community engagement, and we're using that. We were able to do some strategic planning with Dr. Sandra Chat with Chat Equity, and we also are going to show the Big Payback documentary for MLK Day. We received $25,000 from the Hadley Project, and we're using that for admin and youth engagement because that's critical. We're also going to do some book clubs for the community. We received a $100 speaker fee from the Community Remembrance Project, which we're all so grateful for those funds, and we really need more to shore up our admin and to do more of that community work that needs to be done. The commission, they have worked out a budget to present to Kansas City's council that hopefully will be approved in January for $510,000. They have upcoming listening sessions, and they are doing work to prepare for any legal pushbacks. So we want to ensure that the commission, their work, they have about another year to come up with proposals in our 5 injury areas, and we want to make sure that those proposals have teeth, because we will not be accepting no for an answer. And that is part of the work of the Kansas City Reparations Coalition, that once this commission has disbanded, we have to ensure that those proposals do get implemented. So that is our report. Thank you.
I am one of the members of Evanston's Reparations Committee. As I start, I want to acknowledge also Bonnie, can you stand up? Bonnie Lockhart, who's here, and she was here last evening. She's another one of our committee members. We're led by Robin, not surprisingly, and led well by her. And yesterday, one of our other committee members, who couldn't be here today, she's traveling, Chrissy Harris, brought you greetings from Evanston yesterday. So I want to acknowledge those people. I don't want to take it for granted, because I know I've met a lot of first-time attendees, that people, there's been a lot of reference to Evanston's program, and you know, we're hosting you here, and that was the kernel of FirstRepair's development. But I'm going to now really spend time on how things have progressed in 2023 and report out on that. So over the past year, Evanston's Reparations Committee has continued dedicated efforts to address historical injustices and promote equity within our community. The committee remains committed to its mission of implementing reparative measures in the African American community, and specifically, it's continued to roll out its first program, the Housing Redress Program, that impacts historical discriminatory housing practices. So one of the key, or some of the key achievements in continuing to successfully roll out that program, which I just, you know, for people who may not be familiar, that was designed to provide financial assistance and support for eligible individuals and families who had been adversely affected by past discriminatory housing programs and policies, particularly redlining. So through that initiative, that was the first of a group of initiatives that our community identified where they wanted redress. So we've continued to roll. We began our very first disbursements in the nation of government disbursements of government-funded disbursements of reparations, and that's continued. We had some barriers, and they were not surprisingly, covered extensively in the media. But you know, I hope that we'll all look to this as ways that we can adjust as we learn and move and meet the needs of our community. So one of the major adjustments that we made this year is that we were able to provide for cash payments of that $25,000. Previously, they were to be used in different ways, and they weren't direct cash payments. And we were able to revise that. We had to take some time to take some direction from our legal department, but we were able to do that, and that was really a significant step for Evanston, and I hope for the entire reparations movement. So I think that really enriched our program, and it provided recipients with greater agency in addressing their unique housing-related challenges. And this evolution reflects our city's commitment to inclusivity and responsiveness to the diverse needs of our community as they express it. We continue, as Robin said, to dialogue. Another milestone with that program is that we are near completion with our disbursement to our ancestor group. And that was amazing to us. You may know that our program was originally funded with the tax dollars from our marijuana sales that was additionally taxed to and that there were some barriers that money wasn't rolling in fast enough. So we had to look at, and we did succeed at looking into some additional revenue streams. So that success allowed us to then move quickly, and so proud that we were able to move forward with those near completion of those disbursements. In addition to that restorative housing program, the committee collaborated with local organizations and stakeholders, and we've begun to strategize, and we've strategically formed community groups to begin to develop some of the other prongs that our original community stakeholders identified where they needed redress. Economic development, education. We continue to have a dedicated housing group, and also community unity. Those groups also allowed the committee to reach out to other resources in our community, get experts and passionate community members involved to add their expertise. And lastly, and very importantly, we were able to then increase the program, which was originally allotted by our city council, $10 million for the program. That was doubled. That was doubled to $20 million. And also I want to mention, you know, as we're here today in the collaborative effort, so the Chicago Community Foundation, from our neighbor, not from Evanston, but our neighbor, our close neighbor, gave us some significant support. They provided funds for Evanston to hire a full-time staff member dedicated to our program's needs. And I think this is a wonderful illustration of how we can work together to support each other. We're very grateful for that and for that statement of support. So we look forward to continuing our fruitful discussions and collaborations here at this symposium, and to advance the cause of restorative justice locally and nationwide. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Robin Prouty. I am the founder and executive director of the Descendants of the St. Louis University Enslaved. I am reporting out on St. Louis, and I'm also on the advisory committee of the St. Louis Reparations Commission. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's better. Okay, so on December 7, 2022, St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones passed Executive Order 75, establishing the St. Louis Reparations Commission, a 9-member commission. Currently, it has 8 members. The mission is to assess the history of race-based harms in the city, explore the present-day manifestations of that history, and recommend a proposal to begin reparations. The commission has held 9 board meetings and 9 public meetings thus far. They will serve 1 year, ending in March 2024. The commission will present recommendations to the mayor and aldermen in St. Louis. Secondly, I'm going to report out on my organization, DSLU. So we are honored to report to the symposium on behalf of the descendants of the St. Louis University enslaved. My organization is committed to seeking justice for reparations for historical wrongs. My family was contacted by the Jesuits in St. Louis University in 2019 and told that upwards of 70 of our direct ancestors were enslaved at St. Louis University, and also they helped to build and sustain several missions and Catholic institutions in the St. Louis area. And we also are GU 272 descendants. We believe that our success in attaining reparative justice will help bolster the national reparations movement. By seeing success locally, it can also inspire others to get involved in the national agenda. So Robin Prouty, myself, and Vice President Claire McFarland, we met with St. Louis University 12-member Discovery Committee this year. Despite our hopes and subsequent follow-up meetings, yielded no substantive action plans toward repair. In response, the SLU initiated phase 1 of our media and public awareness campaign. Collaborating strategically with SLU students, we launched a change.org petition urging this university to atone for the enslavement of our ancestors. This initiative garnered attention from esteemed media outlets, including local NPR, PBS, and others, and leading to our feature in a local Juneteenth PBS special. As we approach 2022, the SLU is poised to embark on phase 2 of our public awareness campaign with the vision to garner national support. Our collaborations have extended to include renowned activist Shawn King and other legal representatives. And we are in the process of formulating a national strategy engaged with, like I said, legal representatives to secure broader support. Additionally, the SLU, in partnership with Kim Howard, is diligently outlining historical harms for our forthcoming presentment, which we will present to the Board of Trustees and the President of St. Louis University. Okay, so I just want to thank everybody. I'm happy to be here. And we are also asking that you lend your support. You can send letters of support to our organization. You can get our address at www.dslu.org, DSLUE. And we're going to present this package to the Board of Trustees, and we look for your support. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lakisha David. I am an assistant professor from the Department of Anthropology at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Please let me know if you can't hear me okay. I am a scholar, I'm an academic. I am not a reparations scholar, so I am learning a lot from you all, and I hope, to receive feedback at some point. All right, but I am going to introduce the Illinois 103, the General Assembly House Resolution 453 that was introduced on October 24th. It is the Family Roots Genealogy Pilot Program proposed by State Representative Carol Ammons. To learn more about the legislative part of things, I invite you to talk with our county clerk, Aaron Ammons over there. But I would talk more about the genetic genealogy part of it. So HR 453 seeks to reconnect African Americans with their African ancestry by using genetic genealogy to identify living African relatives. So we heard a moment ago the example of using 23andMe Ancestry to find, roots and percentages and things like that. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about finding living relatives. So finding the 6th cousins, the 8th cousins, and so forth, and then putting people in contact with each other, and then you determine what that means to you. So we know the historic context. I think I'm in a very informed audience here for this part, that people were taken from African families and communities. Enslaved people were trafficked without regard for family ties, cultural ties, and that this legacy of separation has resulted in a sense of loss of ancestral history. When I'm interviewing people for the research that I do, a lot of times they speak to this, and this being the reason why they eventually use the public, the commercial companies. So again, we have this destruction of family ties. It's been compounded over generations. We have the records of this. We know it's been documented in narratives. It's been documented in Freedmen Bureau records, in the newspaper advertisement looking for family members and things like that. But there was a recent Pew study that says about 15% of the African American adult population have taken a genetic genealogy test. So is this something that people want? It is very clearly something that people do want. And because of the communal nature of DNA tests, that people can share the results of a DNA test, we know that this has a greater impact than what this number 15% might look like. But still, for some, this is really too expensive for people to be able to use. Sorry about that formatting. This bill, this House resolution, was introduced by Representative Carol Ammons. This one is a little bit different because she approached me to work with her on this because of the research that I was already doing. This facilitates the reconnection of African ancestral heritage, and the hope is to make it accessible by making it available at no cost to people. So it is seeking to address the historical injustices as well as addressing the cultural and psychological impacts of slavery. Just to give a little bit of a snapshot of the implementation of it, the idea is to test people of African descent who live in Illinois. We will have the saliva processed on campus at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, at the Carver Biotech Center. That data would then be sent to me in my lab, where we will then compare that DNA to the 1,000 genomes data set as a reference panel. This is a bit of a compromise because people are used to getting those percentages. And so because of that, I decided to include this part. But in the reporting, I want to make it clear that this reference panel represents individuals. And so what I'm actually able to do is to say, you're related to this person on this particular time scale from Africa. So this is something that anyone can do. Anyone, with some, basic coding skills or bioinformatics or something like that can do this part. The rest of it is key to my particular lab and anyone who pursues this area. So what we then go on to do is to compare the DNA to every other person in the database. I think that sounds familiar because of 23andMe and Ancestry. So we're using the 1 to 22 chromosomes, that's the autosomes, and the X and Y chromosome. And then we will determine relatedness by, if they're meeting a certain threshold, and use that segment of DNA to estimate the relationship. And then what we'll be able to do is to infer the family tree. So if you've already tested with 23andMe and Ancestry, you've gotten this list of relatives, and there's a lot of work that goes into putting together the family tree. So what my algorithm will attempt to do is to infer that family tree for people, okay? And then we will return the results to participants, including the contact information, assuming consent, right? So we're talking about people of African descent, African Americans, being able to communicate with and interact with their African relative, and then they decide what that means, right? So I'm not giving them an ethnicity estimate. That's not what this is, right? Okay, so, excuse me. So this picture here, this person on the right is Ghanaian with his mother, and then the people on the left are African American. If you're from Chicago, this person on the left might look familiar to you. They tested, and he's in my project, and they found out that they're related to each other. Okay? And so he immigrated, he's in Chicago, and like I said, and so they meet and they have dinner, dancing, so forth and so on. So they continue to test and found out that she is related to him on his father's side. This is another example. The person in the sneakers here, African American woman. She tested this folks here. This is actually in Ghana, where I traveled often and test folks. She found out that she was related to folks in the project and traveled to Ghana to meet her family members there. And so this is what this picture is. So I just want to emphasize, if you don't get anything else, is that we're talking about living relatives, because it wasn't that long ago. We're talking about 4 to 20 generations ago, and our regular testing is capable of picking that up. This is something that should have been done already. So the rest here, I just want to, I'll just sort of breeze through because of the time. But this PowerPoint is in the documents on the app. But there's research that already shows that identity development is really important. So my background is in human development and family studies. So identity development is really important to psychological well-being. I don't see her here, but one of you helped me to shape the language around mental health in this. So there's also research that already shows that, particularly for African Americans, having a healthy ethnic identity development is associated with having a positive psychological well-being. Knowing about your family history is associated with that. So now, we didn't have these stories. I'm about to cry. We didn't have these stories before. And now, we do. There are some challenges that I'll be happy to talk with to maybe, get some feedback about. Managing expectations, I think, is the biggest one. And then, of course, there is the, security, privacy, and things like that. I think one of the things that's really particular about being an academic is that I can say, this is for Black folks. I can list that as a criteria and get grant funding for it. So if you want to collaborate with academics, maybe you can help us, and we can, do this thing, right? Okay. So this is a takeaway. Got it. So I'm happy to talk more. Thank you.